Welcome to another session of Scatteryan. The first story I'm going to be exploring is of an American man that stole a Porsche from the museum and went to register the car as his own. I'm going to use a psychological framework to try to explain called social perceptive taking. Everyone have done some form of fapping at some point. The other story I will Scatteryan about is about neighbors. You know how they say, love your neighbor as yourself? Well, some people have taken it to the next level where they love their neighbor's properties on their behalf. Yes. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another session of Scatteryan, where we discuss everything that relates to people, society, and culture. I'm your guy, Toves. As always, gratitude and lots of appreciation to those that are streaming our content across major platforms. Keep liking, keep subscribing if you're yet to do so. And also share your thoughts on what you think about our discussions. To kick us off today, I have a quick question. If you had the means, what is the one thing that you would like to have? I'll leave you to your interpretation of whatever means mean. So, if you had the means, whatever that means to you, what is the one thing that you would like to have? Leave your response in the comment section below. On today's webisode, I'm going to be scatteryanning about getting what you want by any means necessary. And I'm going to be doing so using some stories that I read on various websites, including the Mirror UK. The first story I'm going to be exploring is of an American man that stole a Porsche from the museum and went to register the car as his own. Yes, you heard it right. He stole a Porsche from the museum and went to register the Porsche as his own. Since it's an American man, let's just call him Johnny so that I won't be saying American man throughout the episode. So let's stick to Johnny for now. Johnny wanted a Porsche. I'm assuming he's always wanted a Porsche all his life and decided that the best way to get a Porsche was to nick one from the museum. Some of the interesting things to me when I was reading that news story was that Johnny was able to fuel the car with either diesel or petrol. I don't have a Porsche, so I don't know what it uses. He was able to fill the tank of the car during the robbery. And also he moved 7 cars out of the way before driving off with the Porsche. What I don't know is if the 7 cars was inside the museum or if the 7 cars was outside the museum. But anyways, that's relevant. He did that anyway. And another interesting thing to me was how he got the key to the Porsche. Would you like to guess how he did it? If your guess is he forged a key, that will make sense. If your guess is he hotwired the car, yank out the wires and, he knows which one to mix together to spark and start the car, that's a very good possibility. If your guess is he went into an office to first of all steal the key before coming to drive the car away, that's another logical explanation. However, that's not how he got the key to the car. Do you want to know where he found the key? The key was just laying there in the car. The key was on the floor of the car by the driver's footrest. So basically, where people rest their legs when they're driving, that's where Johnny found this key, which is amazing to me. It brings into mind many questions. But anyway, the interesting thing for me was how I was able to fuel the car right there in the middle of the operation. In an alternate episode, I would have, talked about how I think he got the fuel into the museum to fuel the car and then drive off. But my podcast has taken a different turn since episode 1, so I'm going to do something different. Instead, I would like to scatteryan about why Johnny felt entitled to the point where he could go and register a stolen property as his own. I don't want whatever I say to sound like a conspiracy theory. Instead, I'm going to use a sociological or psychological framework to try to explain why Johnny felt he could do so. The framework I'm going to use is called social perceptive taking, SPT. What is social perceptive taking? Some of you might be wondering. Social perceptive taking is how psychologists and even shrinks and sociologists try to understand how whoever they're studying might have acted in a certain way. So basically, trying to understand why the person that they're studying behaved the way they behave or acted the way that they did. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, but I'm going to try to use this framework to explain, not to justify, but to explain why Johnny felt entitled. Because it's not every day that you see someone steal something from the museum and go and register it like his own. It's quite interesting, for lack of a better term. Follow me on this one. When I was a youngster in boarding school, during one of the holidays, I fapped a Craig David's album. It was a audio cassette. Fapped is my terminology of choice, okay? That's what I choose to use, and that's what we all called it at the time. That was the slang in my boarding school. So I fapped Craig David's album, audio cassette, took it home, and, felt like a big boy when I lent it out to people when they come to me to, want to borrow the Craig David album. I knew in my heart of hearts it was not mine, but anyways, I felt good and wanted and respected because people wanted to associate with me because of that album. But unfortunately, it did not last for long. That feeling did not last for long because around the same period, Wyclef Jean's album came out. I think that was that period where Wyclef Jean's album came out, Thugs Angel, and that's what people wanted. So Craig David's album was no longer what people wanted. Anyways, it was only 7 days that people liked anyway. So that feeling of wantedness, that feeling of being powerful disappeared. And luckily for everyone, I did not feel the urge to go and fap another album. Anyway, because my uncle had the Thug Angels album. Hopefully he did not fap it. But even if he did, oh well. It's a long time ago now. So yeah, so maybe it's that kind of thing where Johnny felt that he wanted the respect of people around him. He felt that a Porsche could do it, so he went to go get himself a Porsche. Now, before you start judging me for fapping an audio cassette, everyone have done some form of fapping at some point, all right? And it can be as simple as fapping a pen that does not belong to you, knowingly or unknowingly. Maybe you went to a bank and to fill out a form, you do not have a pen with you, and so you ask someone to lend you their pen, and then you use it and do not return it. Or it could be in an examination room or anywhere. Either ways, you took a pen that does not belong to you, and after a while, you started, lending out that pen as if it was yours. You felt entitled to the pen because it has been in your possession for a long period of time, that you could start giving it out to people, despite you knowing in your heart of hearts that it is not yours. All right. I know you're probably thinking that does not explain why he went to register the car as his own. Well, which brings us to another psychological framework or another psychological concept called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, in a simple way, is guilty conscience. If you've ever heard of guilty conscience, that's what cognitive dissonance is that feeling of discomfort, that feeling of unease within you, within your heart and in your mind when you've done something wrong or when you've done something that is against your usual character. So speaking about a fapped pen, the pen that you were giving away that is not yours, right? Some people, they end up giving away those pen because they know in their heart of heart that whenever they see the pen, it reminds them that it was not theirs in the first place, and they don't want to keep it because they don't want their heart to keep, they don't want to have that feeling of discomfort. That is cognitive dissonance. And so people give the pen away, or they might just leave it somewhere so they never see it again and forget that ever happened. That right there is people's reaction to cognitive dissonance. For me, at the end of the day, I think I gave someone the Craig David cassette and never asked for it again. I didn't want to feel guilty conscience for looking at a stolen album ever again. That's what most people do. They'll confess to their crimes or they go and confess to people and ask for forgiveness. But others, when they have cognitive dissonance or guilty conscience, instead of them to return or do away with those stolen properties or fact properties, they try to make it theirs. That's why you see some drug dealers try to own a legitimate business so they don't feel bad about all of the negative things they are doing. In this situation, Johnny might have felt bad about driving a Porsche that was not his. So in order to quench that guilty conscience, in order to do away with the cognitive dissonance, he probably felt that the best thing to do was to go and register the car as his own. And that way, he becomes the legitimate owner of the Porsche and he doesn't have to feel guilty anymore, right? So that's my explanation for why Johnny would have gone to steal a car and register it as his own. What is your own interpretation without being judgmental? Okay, I don't try to judge people, but I would like to read some of your comments in the comment section below and discuss them in a future show with a panel, or maybe just a live stream with me and you. So leave them in the comment section below. Remember to press the like button as well while you're scrolling down. The other story I would like to scatter yarn about is about neighbors. You know how they say, love your neighbor as yourself? Well, some people have taken it to the next level where they love their neighbor's properties on their behalf. This story is also one I read online, including Mirror UK. There is this young man in England that ordered a TV online and wanted it to be delivered to his grandpa's house. The grandpa was not at home for some reason, and so the delivery guys decided to leave the TV with the grandpa's neighbor. So I don't keep saying like grandpa's neighbor, grandpa, grandson. Let's call the grandpa's neighbor Tom, and let's call the young man Chris. We'll not give the grandpa a name because he doesn't have too much to do in this story. It's just Tom, grandpa's neighbor, Chris, young man. Now, once Chris got the notification that his TV has been delivered, he went to the grandpa's house. The TV was not there. I'm sure the delivery guys must have left a note. And so Chris went to Tom's house. Remember, grandpa's neighbor. On getting to Tom's house, Tom has already unwrapped the TV and mounted the TV on the wall. That's not what the story said. I just said mounted on the wall. Either way, he has unwrapped the TV and was using the TV. So when Chris knocked on Tom's door, knock, knock, to ask Tom for the TV, Tom was like, what's going on here? Sorry, I ordered exactly the same TV and that was what was delivered to me. If I get any other delivery in future, I'm going to give you that one. And obviously, if you were Chris, what would you do in this situation? I would like to read some of them in the comment section below. Anyways, there was a lot of back and forth. It took, external people to be called in order to retrieve the TV back from Tom. But now the TV is no longer a brand new TV. It's a fairly used TV. An interesting part of the story to me was that Tom, grandpa's neighbor, called the grandpa to say, your grandson has cheated me out of a TV. That's another level of entitlement I would like to use social perceptive taking to try to explain, because I don't know how these people are having the guile, the effrontery to be able to, claim other people's properties as theirs. And this one, I have no story of mine. I have no personal story that I can relate to. And so I'm just going to spitball here using social perceptive taking and other sociological and psychological framework. Now, let's start with cognitive dissonance, because that's what we've already used for the first story. Let's apply cognitive dissonance to this one. And in this situation, it could be that Tom, the grandpa, felt that he has been doing Chris and his grandpa a lot of favors in the past. So he felt that taking the TV is a payment for all of his inconvenience and the favors that he has done them in the past. That could be one way to explain why Tom felt entitled. All right. It's not a justification, remember? It's just trying to understand why people did what they did. Another explanation for why Tom might have taken the TV or felt entitled to the TV, as silly as this might sound, is Tom probably felt that since the TV was delivered to his house, that makes the TV his own automatically. And I've seen so many examples of this, all right, where people got delivered stuff. They just believe, oh, since it's in my house, it must be for me. Maybe my grandson, my grandchild, my friend, family, cousins, wife, uncles, daughter, sister must have ordered this for me, so it's mine automatically, all right? So because that TV is in his property, he felt that he owned it. And it's a psychological framework that is known as endowment effect. My last attempt to explain this one is the wildest explanation, and it has to do with how people deal with negative stereotypes. In the news report, they did not tell us the address of these people. They didn't tell us the economic level, but I'm just going to assume, for the purpose of this conversation, that maybe Tom was living in a council house or a welfare house. In a lot of countries that have welfare system, there are some people that have a negative stereotype about people that live in welfare houses, including that they are enjoying benefits of other people's hard work, you know? So maybe Tom, in his own way to flip that narrative, probably said to himself, if people think that everything comes to us for free anyway, I'm guessing this TV is going to be mine as well. That's another way to explain it. What do you think about my explanation? What will be your explanation for why Tom felt so entitled that he could take the TV as his own, and when he was forced to give it back, felt that the young man, Chris, in this situation, had cheated him out of a TV? I would like to read some of them in a future episode. And that's where I'm going to pause my conversation for today. Remember to press the like button, subscribe if you're yet to do so, and follow us on our socials at Dr. Toves Corner on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and at It's Dr. Toves Corner on TikTok. Until the next episode, use your brain. SCFR.